if money wasn't a factor, where do you think you'd want to live? And you said, hey, one of my favorite places that we've lived has been Naperville, Illinois.
Yeah.
But then you said, now we're talking about dream versus fear. Then you said, despite how I set the conversation up, you said, but Illinois state taxes are so high, and they are. They're crazy, you know. But then I said to you, I said, Teresa, my question was if money was no object. So if money is no object, we don't care how much the taxes are. So is it Naperville or not? So that's the interesting thing about a relationship, given how different people were brought up and their background and their experiences, even with me kind of setting the parameters of that conversation,
I reverted back.
You reverted back to
sure
kind of more
did.
fear
I
budgeting
did.
than dream budgeting. You know, you and I've worked on a dream house design.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've never built a house. We've moved to a lot of different houses, but we've never built a house. And sometimes when I say to you, hey, let's kind of talk about our house design, I notice your goals seem to have more constraints. You know, I'd like this, but I'm not sure we can afford it.
Right.
And then whereas my goal is like, here's what I like. Obviously, we can't afford it. We're not going to get it. But to me, it's really a dream. What is it about our backgrounds that make us approach that differently? Because our backgrounds are pretty similar. We both grew up on farms. My parents were both school teachers. Your mom was a teacher. Your dad wasn't a school teacher, but I would say we grew up kind of the same. A lot of our food and living, we raised on the farm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what is it about our backgrounds differently that makes me more of a dream budgeter naturally, and you more, if you tell me if you disagree, naturally a fear budgeter?
I think that goes way back to, I guess my father being frugal and having to pay attention to things in order to have things.
Well,
So
that's not bad.
no, it's not a bad
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
No, it's not a bad thing. But it also brought about some constraints to say, always the baseline is fear of not having enough.
So tell me if you disagree. It appears that your natural style is more fear-based budgeting, and my natural style is more dream-based budgeting. And that's not to say we both shouldn't come here. Maybe I should be a little bit more, I don't like the word fear, but maybe should be a little bit more conservative in terms of my budgeting, and maybe you should be a little bit more dream-based.
I agree with that, and I do acknowledge that that's definitely has been a part of how I've responded to things. Absolutely, even with the children, I can remember I would make sure they have the best of things, yes, but then I would go to the secondhand store to get my things. And
Really?
yeah, because I felt like, okay,
Their kids at
I
home.
I wanted them to be where they needed to be and have what they needed. And then if I needed anything, I would go to the secondhand store, but I would be just as happy there myself, really, because I wasn't a big thing of having to have designer things and all that wasn't my
So
thing.
you have a tendency, it's what?
I put the
You put
kids
yourself
first.
last.
I always
You
put
put
myself.
yourself
Yeah,
last.
I do. I do. Because it's not something I have to have. I've never had to be that person I have to have this.
Hey, I'm gonna make an admission here in front of everybody.
Okay.
I have a tendency to put myself first.
You do.
So
I think that's a little selfish, isn't
it
it?
is a little selfish. Hey, I promise we're gonna be completely transparent in this show.
Yeah,
This is
I
just real
know.
talk. This is real talk. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah.
So wow. So fear budgeting sounds like I don't put myself first as much as I used to.
You're better. I agree.
I'm better.
And I'm a better at
And you are better at,
not.
because I would encourage you all the time to go get yourself something or go buy yourself something. I remember we bought you a car on eBay. You remember this?
I do.
This is a long time ago when this was not that common. And I remember we bought a Mercedes on eBay, and you really struggled with driving that car.
I did.
Why?
It was like,
It's just a car.
I know it was just a car, but it was a car that it carried a lot of status for some
Did it?
reason. For people, I just look. I mean, the way people responded to me in a car in the Mercedes was,
Now,
yeah, it
now, now
was.
again, hey, everybody drives around Mercedes now,
I
but
know
this
it's
was
not a
what
big
was this,
deal.
the 90s maybe? This was 30 years ago
Yeah, a long time
when
ago.
it was not that common, not as common as it is now. Okay, okay. All right. So fear budgeting sounds like we can't afford anything. What if we run out? You spend too much.
Yeah,
That's kind of some common statements of fear-related budgeting.
right.
Okay. All right. Now you talk about account structure. We talked about this a little bit. Yours, mine, ours. So you want to respect autonomy at the same time promote unity.
hmm
So ours, walk through yours, mine, ours.
So just looking at hours, it would be the most important things: the rent, the mortgage, whatever we have. That's most important. Groceries and utilities, vacations, all of that would be ours,
Okay.
right? And then there would be yours and mine in those spaces where you could get whatever, have a certain amount of money that you use, and I have a certain amount of whether you use it or not. We still have that money for if I wanted to go to Starbucks or whatever, I don't have to deal with the main budget or whatever.
Okay. But now we mentioned this a few minutes ago. So I would argue we can do the same thing under one account with the budget set up. Okay, so
Or the spending
or
plan.
the
Yeah, but
spending, yeah, because
people run away from
people
budget.
people do think budget's a negative word. It's not, but
It's
but
just
it
as
has
it's
negative
just
connotations.
yeah, it's just saying this is where my money is going. That's
Yeah,
all it's
that's
saying.
all it's saying.
And
It's
it's
a
not
plan.
it's not a
It's a plan.
restriction per
Yeah,
se.
yeah. It's
It's
actually freeing.
it is. It should
It's
be.
actually freeing.
It should be.
Hey, one of the first things I learned with the budget in terms of it being freeing, uh, we mentioned we're big givers, right? So let's say somebody walks by your door, and I know this is kind of maybe legalistic, but here's the first thing I learned about budgeting when we started. Hey, I need $100 for this.
hmm
Now that you've got a budget. So in our budget, we've got money set aside for giving, for benevolence, for helping, whatever. So now somebody walks by, let's say it's one of the kids.
hmm
I need $100. I don't have $100. Dad, I see your budgeting sheet there. It looks like there's $29,000 in there. Yeah, but I don't have $100 in this category for what you're asking me for.
Right.
Because the money we allocated in that category, we've already spent.
Right.
Is that making sense to everybody? That's the freedom of a spending plan.
And that's being, I think, a good steward.
It's actually being a good steward.
Yeah, and you're not you won't feel overwhelmed and having all the anxiety and all of that if you stay within those boundaries.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, some of the benefits that you talk about of having the right account structure is it preserves dignity, kind of like the story we talked about I feel like I'm coming to you like my dad.
Right.
So now I know that you're going to, this is not true, but if you stopped at Starbucks every morning, that was your deal, and let's say that was $174 a month, we need to talk about, can we afford that? Oh yeah, sure we can. Well, then let's put it in the budget. So now it's not like you don't need to hide your radical, crazy Starbucks addiction. I'm not being judgmental. I'm just using for example.
Right, because it's not me. Because
I'm sorry, say it's not you, but for the people out there who may fit in this category, so now that we put that in the budget, you don't need to hide your purchases each morning
So
because we've accounted for it.
Right, you don't have to be ashamed of that. It also prevents micromanagement. Nobody wants to be micromanaged.
That's a good
in that
point.
area.
Which you felt like you were being micromanaged when we started.
Absolutely.
But that's the other thing.
You were a little controlling.
I was a little controlling. I came up with this budget and I want to see it followed.
Okay.
But later on we collaborated, which is one of the things you talked about.
Right.
All right. A money story explanation. Each person brings a financial backstory. It must be unpacked, not ignored. So what were some of your early money messages? This was one of my common things growing up. Money doesn't grow on trees.
Yeah, that's what they say.
It didn't make any sense, but at the time, I guess I later on understood what they meant out. But it's kind of like my mom said, you can't have your cake and eat it too. That never made sense to me. Later it did. But anyway, so money doesn't grow on trees. Or growing up, we never talked about money at all. That's not a good thing.
No.
Understanding financial trauma or scarcity mindsets. Hey, so we've had financial trauma. We've talked about our story about how we lost everything.
Mhm.
We lost our home. We lost our rental homes. We lost our cars. We sold family possessions that
Oh, we
can't,
did.
that
Oh,
can't be
we
replaced.
cannot be